Mr. Osgood?
Joe Osgood, Ward 2, currently. I sent an email to the council, and I apologize if a request that I put in there to the mayor got buried, but I asked for a copy of the contract between the city and the assessor for MRI. Did you see that?
If I did,
I would like a copy of that if I could get one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
According to, I'm just giving you a little synopsis now because as far as I'm concerned, this isn't over yet. According to the BTLA, the agreement between and this was only an agreement between the assessor, Topstone, and the manager. And I use the manager's name because his name was signed on a document that clearly spells out that this agreement is not complete until the governing body approves it. There is nothing in state law that takes the power of the governing body away from the council. The council is the governing body in the city of Claremont. It is spelled out clearly in Wikipedia under the whole state structure. So you are the governing body. And while we're on that subject, over the years, I've seen managers and people get up here and say, well, you guys only have this much power. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can do this, you can't do that. You have a lot of power. But the only way you have a lot of power, if it is done by a motion and it's voted on by the council, and you can literally tell the manager what to do. That's something you people need to get educated on, because there's a lot of things that happen around here where it looks like a member of the council would like to see something go, bring it up as a motion, bring it before the council. If it's voted on, it happens. The charter clearly gives the council power for fiscal, prudential, and pertinent subjects. Topstone Furniture is fiscal and is pertinent with the city. I went to the DES website today, trying to catch up on things. I only made one copy. I'm going to give it to the mayor. She wants to make copies and give it to you people. That is fine. I have come up with some information. First of all, I'm pretty transparent. I want to say that I shared some information with Nancy Merrill about my opinion of the contamination at Topstone Furniture, or Topstone Building. I still call it furniture because it was at one time. It is very clear that, in my mind, that the possibility of that contamination not even coming off that property is quite likely. I shared a lot of information as to where it could be coming from. I've shared it with some of you people. And the next thing I know, there's a letter at the DES requesting to drill test wells on city property to look for contamination. I'm in favor of it. But we have now just basically given a building away, and if it becomes somebody else's liability, we've pretty much given the farm away, and we should have stuck with this. John Stone was looking into this. It was clear. I was seeing it on TV all the time, and then all of a sudden, the carpet was pulled right out. This should have been researched long before this abatement happened, and technically, it has not happened. And you people need to take a stand on the fact that abatements were made and liens were released, and it's not a done deal. There's something going on there that should be looked at. The other thing I saw while I was on there, I caught up on some information that got in there after I had been looking at things. First of all, the information used for the abatement with DES information is stuff that was generated in 2015, we are now in 2018. Things could have changed. That's why I went to the website. I found some information on the DES website today that would lead me to believe that Topstone is really not too concerned with what they're doing, because they're still being told they got to get going, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. No letters back that they are. The other thing I found in there was some information on the vapors in the building, with some requests that they should be looked at, and no information coming back that they were checked. To the point where, I hate to use this because it sounds political, but pregnant women should not be in parts of that building. I think something needs to be done about that. I think it needs to be looked into. I would suggest that the council put together a committee that would look into this and get some answers. And I would strongly recommend that if the BTLA calls you up and says, do you approve of this agreement, that you put a whole lot of homework into it before you agree to it, because the value of the building is ridiculously low. I've done comparisons with building in the area. The comparisons I used are properties that could quite likely be contaminated with the very same contamination. The buildings are very compatible to what the building is being used for, and I will cut it short. You guys all have my number. You want to talk more about it? I would be more than glad to talk about it. But I wanted this much at least out in the public, because the public is concerned about this. This is that letter that went to the DES. I was very surprised to see it myself. I would have made multiple copies, but I've made so many copies on this thing, my printer's out of ink. I couldn't bring any more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Koloski?
So I have a hard time sitting here when we're talking about something like this. When you can come to the podium and just say whatever you like, and that's fantastic for Mr. Osgood, but being in contact and having a business in that building where you want to talk about people not being allowed in a property, that's not factual. So I would encourage the mayor to contact DES and speak to them directly. But to sit here every meeting and hear further and further misconstrued information, I'm having a hard time sitting here doing that. And I have to tell you, like, it's getting a little old. We're sitting here beating a drum. So I will gladly excuse myself. You can go into a session after, you can discuss it, whatever, but I'd like some sort of end result to this. And like I said, it's getting old. And I do have a question, because I'd like to be able to tell my constituents this when they ask. If somebody...
The rest of the stuff, I didn't have enough ink, but make copies, give it to the
Thank you.
council. Thank you.
If somebody comes before us and asks for a document, so is that the acceptable norm now? I don't have an issue with it either way, but we're talking about Councilor Ahern sitting here going back on how we conduct business. And I'm curious, because over the years, everybody's told to go into the manager's office, grab the form, fill out the 91A request, and there's a certain amount of time that document is produced to you. So are we not doing that process now? Because I'd like to properly inform the other voters in the community and constituents when they have a question. I can address them and have them come to the podium. They can speak their mind. They can request any documents of you, and you'll produce it for them.
I don't know what you think I'm
I'm not
producing
addressing you in
documents.
general. It's just we never respond to people either. So he asked for a copy of something.
And yes, I'm going to take that request and send it to Mr. McNutt. And if,
So would the answer be, Mr. Osgood, please come in to see Mr. McNutt, fill out the 91A request that everybody else in the public would be entitled to fill out? Or we'll just handle it for you, Mr. Osgood?
well, that would be a decision that the city manager would make. It's about a request for information. So if he wants to use that process, that's the process we have in place. It's not coming from me.
We have a process in place. The city's had a process in place for eons.
So what's the issue?
2 times now, 2 meetings in a row, we're asked for a document. We produced the document right here. So if that's fine, that's
What was the
absolutely
other
fine.
document that was
He
produced?
requested a letter at the last meeting, and that's okay. I have no issue
A
with that.
letter from the council. Where else would it come from but the
Okay.
council?
That's fine. So
So
tonight
it-
we're asked for another document.
That is a document that it's between the city. It's a contractual agreement between the city.
I understand that, and I also have no problem furnishing any document to Mr. Osgood. What I'm requesting is, what are we telling people? From now on, if anybody needs information, you can just come in here and we'll get it for you? No fee, no 91A request paperwork? That's my question.
And I thought I answered it, which was, the request has been made. I will refer it to the city manager. If he wants to furnish it immediately or go through the 91A, that's his decision to make.
So in order to get an answer, I need to ask Mr. McNutt what the city's policy will be. So if Mr. Sullivan would like to come in from now on and request any documents, or anybody else that reaches out for documents, we can just furnish them directly and you don't have to go do the paperwork process?
Councilor Koloski,
Madam Mayor, I want to let you off the hook.
wait a minute.
I'll file a 91A tomorrow for that copy. I'm sorry that I put you into the middle of this. It's not your fault. This is a ploy that this guy plays every time he's getting
Okay,
back in the
no,
corner.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry
no,
about it.
Sit here and be
Okay,
attacked.
all right.
There's a process. I have no problem with you following the process, and it's not about you or me. It's about the process.
Councilor Koloski, I understand you're upset. I understand many people are upset about this issue, but we are going to conduct ourselves professionally. Councilor Pope.
One suggestion I was going to make later on in the meeting, but I don't mean to start this now, but is that we need to go through some procedure training. I know there's a state process for 91A that I think they require paperwork to track those to make sure 91A requests are filled properly. And that process actually works to the benefit of the requester, so that it is tracked. And so I'm not defending everybody, but I do remember going through a lot of this when it was first discussed, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to have someone come in and discuss, and I'll elaborate more later during future agenda items and directives.
Sure, that would be
because I had
good.
already written down a lot of notes for the last few weeks. So, thank you.
Councilor, wait a minute. Assistant Mayor Dameron?
Yeah, if we can get back to the agenda item of citizens forum, I think I'd like us to finish with that before we have all sorts of other comments and all sorts of other areas coming to us.
Okay.